Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the channel, it's Cynicalex, and today with the coming of Thanos for Endgame with his tier 3, with a lot of people scrambling to build up the resources necessary to either get Thanos to level 60 or get him to level 70 or whatever, I wanted to tackle a pretty important question for for pretty much all players except for super whales, and that is native tier 2 or level 70. A bit more specifically, should I build up a native tier 2 like Thanos, or should I keep building characters to level 70? And so I wanted to tackle this question. I've kind of tackled it before in different videos, but I didn't make one specific video just for this kind of and/or statement. Specifically, the big problem with native tier 2s versus level 70 boils down to three factors. The two biggest ones are biometrics being the number one barrier, I think, for most players, and then number two would be gold, and then third would probably be black antimatter. Now, this doesn't necessarily apply to all native tier 2s and all level 70s. I know some of them require phoenix feathers, but the majority of them require black antimatter, and the majority of native tier 2s like Thanos, and specifically Thanos because of Endgame, require tons of black antimatter, almost 9,000, just to get him to 6 stars, gear 15. Beyond that, you're going to be dishing out thousands more black antimatter, and then that's not even considering his uniform, which takes another metric shit ton of black antimatter to upgrade. So there's a lot, and those three resources are that's really what the question is. Should I put those three resources, biometrics, gold, and black antimatter, towards native tier 2s like the Black Order, Thanos, etc., or should I put them towards level 70 characters? Just before I answer this question, I actually want to answer the previous question, which would be that when should I start looking at building up native tier 2s and level 70s at all? So what should you try to do for your account before beginning to look at getting native tier 2s and level 70s? Now, again, these are just my thoughts. These are just some suggestions that I have for you to consider. There's always a different route that you can take depending on the characters that you like, your playstyle, and what you want out of the game. So I know a lot of players rush to get, for example, level 60 Quicksilver, level 60 Scarlet Witch with the Infinity War uniform. Rightfully so. They're amazing characters. I'll be discussing them later in the video. However, I will say this. These are just a few pieces of food for thought. Having at least 101 characters that are at least 4 stars, level 40. The level 40 doesn't actually matter for biometrics, but having at least having built up enough biometrics to rank up 101 characters to level 4 stars is an important milestone to consider aiming for before investing too much into native tier 2s or level 70s because of co-op. Every time you hit 20, 40, 60, 80, and then 101 characters, your owned hero bonus will go up from stage 1, which is 1 character, which is what you start at when you start the game, when you start your account, all the way up to stage 6, which is where I've been for years now. And that is a really important difference to make, because having a stage 6 bonus will mean that you get the maximum amount of rewards every time you play co-op. So that's 5 times per day. So you know how I get almost 500,000 gold every single time I play co-op? Even if I only get the 1 roll of gold, even if I was VIP 0, that's a big difference between, I think it's like 99,000 or about 100,000 for the stage 1 bonus. So it's almost 400,000 more gold between stage 1 and stage 6. So that's a really important milestone to consider before even considering native tier 2s and level 70s. Additionally, I would say try to consider, or at least trying to build your roster with tier 2s and regular 6 stars so that you can complete World Boss or World Boss Ultimate Stage 1 5 times per day, ideally World Boss Ultimate Stage 1 5 times per day, and then try to aim for Shadowland Stage 25. I actually don't recommend holding off on the last or holding out for the last 5 stages of Shadowland. The rewards are not as good as the first 25 stages, but in order to get there, you need to have at least 25 characters. So if you're stopping short of those 25 characters to start building up Quicksilver, the rewards you could get for those last 5 stages maybe would outweigh the rewards you're going to get from just having, you know, one character for a few extra weeks, because one character doesn't really make that much of an impact on your roster. It does when you have 0 characters or just one, but the more characters you get, the less of an impact each individual new character will get. But let's say you've got 101 4-star characters at least. Let's say you got World Boss Ultimate 5 times per day. Let's say you've got Shadowland Stage 25 and you're ready to answer the question. Well, straight up, I think the answer is level 70. Just a very quick and dirty answer. I think level 70 is a more important jump than getting a new native tier 2, and I'll try to explain why without giving you in-game examples, because I don't have any characters at level 60 that can compare to level 70s or tier 3s or native tier 2s, etc. The biggest reason is that the reward, the investment that you've already made on a level 60 character to level 70 is about proportional to the 1-star to 6-star level 60. And the example that I'll give you is the 4th gear option. The 4th gear option, the stat bonus actually doubles from gear 20 to gear 25. So if you see a gear 25 character, it's going to be just over 2,000 stat points going into that one stat. And if you compare that to a character that only has gear 20, you will see that it's actually just over 1,000. So it's almost double. It's not quite double, but it's almost double, and that's a huge thing to consider. So if you kind of calculate out the base stats of a 20 gear character that's tier 2, level 60, and you compare them to a fully maxed out tier 3 character, you can see that some of the numbers, I mean, that's 1362 all attack versus 875. It's not quite double, but it's pretty close. It's like 75% more stats, and if you kind of multiply that out over all the stats, you get a huge bonus. Additionally, there's a kind of like an uncalculable or a hidden bonus when you're level 70 versus being level 60, and that applies to your dodge rate, your ignore dodge rate, your crit chance, and those kinds of rolls are much more beneficial for you when you're at level 70 versus level 60. Additionally, I think the level 70 investment is good because you're investing in something that you've already built. So let's say you have a level 60 Captain Marvel and you're thinking, okay, should I use these 2,400 bios to take her to level 70, or should I use these 2,400 bios to start, you know, gearing up my Quicksilver? Well, even when you gear up Quicksilver to level 60, you're still going to need to give him an ISO 8 set, which requires rolling gold to get one. You're going to need to invest the ISOs. You need to invest in his Uru, and you can only equip them all once you get to a certain gear level. Then you also have to give him an obelisk, and then if you get his uniform, you have to think about upgrading that. All of those things you don't have to do again for a character that you've already gotten to level 60. Presumably, you already have a level 60 character that you want to take to level 70. You've already unlocked their potential, because they can unlock their potential, and you've already gotten, you know, everything ready. So they probably already have some Uru. They obviously will already have an ISO 8 set. They're obviously already going to have a CTP or an obelisk equipped, a custom gear, and if they have a uniform, you probably already have it. No one's going to take a level 70 character or take a character up to level 70 that they've not built at all. So building on an investment that you've already built on is much cheaper overall than building a brand new character from 0 to 60. The last benefit that I think level 70 has over native tier 2s in general, and I'm not even comparing character to character, like, you know, the top 5 characters in the game are not native tier 2 guys besides Deadpool. I'm not even doing that. I'm just saying, looking at 2 different characters of comparable value, there's more of a value for getting a character from level 60 to level 70 in terms of both PvE and PvP. And that really comes from the kind of uncalculable benefit that level 70 has for PvP. Level 60 characters are very rare nowadays, at least in Vibranium. I don't know about the other leagues, but it's very rare to find a level 60 character. Okay, sure, the top guy has 2 level 60 characters. But besides that, you can go through, that's a very rare situation to be in. I would say more than, come on guys. More than 90% of the characters that I see in Vibranium are level 70, and this is kind of an anomaly right now. Every time I make a video, are you fucking serious? This is obviously a joke. He's just trying to get his you know, what are they called? The bonus points for the recommended heroes. Yeah. Anyways, more than 90% of competitive Vibranium League teams, timeline battle teams, have level 70 characters. Nova and Jean Grey are pretty much the only level 60 characters that you see anymore in PvP. And if you try to bring your level 60 characters into PvP against level 70s, you'll see what I mean. So you don't even have to take my word for it. You can try it out. So getting a character like Quicksilver, he's good in PvP, and getting him up to level 60 and investing all that material might make him good in PvP. It might, but you might get a better return on your investment if you get another PvP character like, let's say, Captain Marvel again, or Wolverine, from level 60 to level 70, so they can properly compete with characters at their same level and stat cap. And that, again, goes towards crit rate and crit damage, not crit damage, but crit rate, dodge, ignore dodge, and those kinds of things, where it calculates your level in comparison. And you can see the same thing happening when you do something like bring a tier 1 character against a tier 2 character. That's a bit more of a drastic imbalance because the damage numbers as well are extremely low, but it still matters. So I think those are the 3 biggest reasons why level 70 should be prioritized before native tier 2s. But there are some exceptions, like I said, characters that are so strong like Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver, but those are ones that you need to consider on a case-by-case basis, not only in terms of just overall value, but in terms of what you want out of your account. If you don't really care about the specific values that those characters bring to the game, you don't necessarily need to start building them up ASAP. But I would say that you should look at some of the top native tier 2 characters, and you should consider whether they would make a welcome addition to your roster and whether you need them. So a couple of examples I'm going to give you now are kind of, I would say, kind of the top 4, top 5 native tier 2 heroes. Quicksilver is just a very good, very quick to get, easy to get native tier 2. He's basically the first one you can unlock. If you want to go on to the right side of things, where you get, you go down the road towards Quicksilver, then Scarlet Witch and Cable. And he's he's good in PvE, but he's also a very good PvP character. He's got high levels of penetration, he's got guaranteed dodge, he's got ignore dodge, so he's going to very easily counter teams that use Spider-Man, teams that use Spider-Man 2099, pretty much any of that stuff. I know Spider-Man 29 is another level 60 character, Cynicalex, but Quicksilver is just a very good PvP character to try to help you through, I think, a rough patch in the game, because I think PvP is difficult for most new to intermediate level players. Cable obviously is another really good native tier 2 to consider getting, because he's just so strong for ABX, and he can easily blow by 100,000 points for every single day that he's available, and he's relatively, straightforward to play. Another amazing character, another amazing native tier 2 to consider putting ahead of some of your level 70s, despite what I've explained about the level 70 versus native tier 2 value game, is Scarlet Witch. She's a World Boss Ultimate God, and she's one of the 2 or 3 best strikers in the game for World Boss Ultimate, so she'll make all of your other World Boss Ultimate clears easier and faster. So those 3 characters, I think, and it's funny that they're all kind of tied together, they were made super strong for a reason, to encourage players to spend their upgrade materials on them. Now, keep in mind that Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver do cost Black Antimatter to build up to level 60, whereas Cable costs Phoenix Feathers. So I think that does make Quicksilver and Cable, because you build them both faster than you build Scarlet Witch, it makes them both a little bit cheaper, because while Quicksilver is going to cost that 4,400 Black Antimatter in those bios, you're going to be overflowing on feathers anyways, so you'll be able to dump them into Cable without having to worry about your Black Antimatter resources, and you'll be able to save them up faster for Scarlet Witch. The final native tier 2 that I would suggest you build up, possibly now, because the time is nigh, is obviously Thanos. I'm not saying he's the only other native tier 2 to build up, but when an update is coming, if they were going to announce an update for the end of 2019 and it was going to be called, Strife Returns, people would start building up Strife, because they're going to expect he's going to get a uniform, he's going to get his tier 3, and he's already super fucking powerful. He's going to start dunking and dumping over everyone in the game. That kind of makes sense logically. Well, you know what? Avengers Endgame, small independent movie, is coming to theaters very soon, and this guy right here, wouldn't you know, he's the main villain of that movie, and I think it's, projected to gross a few billion or a few $trillion. So I would expect that he's going to get a substantial rework and a substantial buff to coincide with the movie that he's basically the star of, the kind of the vehicle pushing the heroes to the brink of extinction 4. And we already know he's getting uniform. We already know he's getting a tier 3. So yeah, that is another reason why it's probably a good time to build Thanos and invest in him if you've been hoarding resources and you've been wondering, you know, what should I do? What does Cynicalex have to say? Should I build up more characters to level 70, or should I dump all of this on the Mad Titan? If it's incoming, and if you know for sure that a character is going to get a massive rework, and if they're a character that's been as dominant for as long as Thanos has, it's a pretty good bet that you can invest in them. But as always, wait to see, because there's no sense investing in him as in actually clicking the button one day before the update versus 5 minutes after the update is live, because I'll be live on Twitch and you'll be able to see my reaction immediately to Thanos, and you'll be able to get a much better idea of whether it's a good idea, and then you can just go ahead and blow all your resources. But if you have enough to spare, as I do, as quite a few other veterans do, it's probably a pretty safe bet to build him up at least to level 60 and start getting those gears up so that you can, you know, go the rest of the route. And definitely building him up to level 60 so you can unlock his potential is another really good idea. And for all of those native tier 2s who do have potential, it would be a good idea, if you were going to build them up, to save up enough resources until you can go all the way to 60 and then get that potential to unlock them to 70. There's a few exceptions, like, you know, a 2-star, 3-star Scarlet Witch can actually do Shadowland in certain situations, but the majority of native tier 2s are not that strong. Also, for those wondering, I did leave out the epic quest characters because that's a totally different situation. Native tier 2 epic quest characters, while they do cost a lot of materials in terms of phoenix feathers, black antimatter, etc., they do not require any biometrics. All of the biometrics that they require are already being invested in the characters that surround the epic quest. So you're not sacrificing those, you know, 500 or 600 biometrics that you build up to get Human Torch to 5 stars. You will have a 5-star Human Torch at the end of that quest. Same thing goes for Thing and, you know, Cyclops and all those characters from all those epic quests. So it's really a completely different situation, and, you know, investing in bios that you'll have forever, that you'll be able to put towards your owned character, owned hero co-op stage bonus, is infinitely more valuable than literally just flushing those hundreds of bios down the toilet to get Scarlet Witch up from level 50 to level 55. So let me know what you guys think of my evaluation of level 70 versus native tier 2. Do you think it's as obviously one-sided as I do, barring, you know, a few exceptions like Scarlet Witch and her brother? Hit me up in the comments, on Twitter, on Discord. Subscribe if you enjoy what I do. And of course, if you like what you see, I hope to see you again tomorrow. Take care.